Good morning. It is Wednesday, February 16th, 2022, and coming to you from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Yakima, Washington. This is the Best Lamb Sports Show. I'm your host, David Lamb, and with me is my son, Parker. Say hello, Parker.
Hello, Parker.
Woohoo.
Hey,
Yeah,
the
right?
audience is on it.
Awake,
today.
they're up. I mean,
They must have had more energy drinks than me.
yeah, fourth best audience in the business. We are streaming on YouTube. We're on Twitter at Lamb Sports, on Facebook under the Best Lamb Sports Show, and you can send us an email, lambsports@gmail.com. Please check out our webpage. You can find links to the past shows and current trivia question on www.lambsports.com. Super Bowl 56.
Exciting.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
It was a good game. I'm not going to give it great Super Bowl.
It's not all-time stats, but of the top 50 Super Bowls,
it is one of the top 50.
It's in the top 10. No, it's in the top 20. It's in the top 20.
As far as Super Bowls go, it was one of them. Right.
I said of the top 56 or 57 Super Bowls, it's there.
It is right there. We have Kyler Murray's back in the news. Portland Trailblazers traded some people and won a couple games. What is up with that? I don't understand at all what's happening. Right? I need to get that clip. Big old trade in the NBA last week. Since our last show, we'll talk about that real briefly. The Winter Olympics. Not that anyone cares. I don't know if anybody does. A couple things I like to watch. Every rest of it can just. NHL standings. We're going to cover the NHL standings. By the way, Sidney Crosby reached a milestone last night. MLB still in a lockout. We're going to talk about that. And then, you know what? Soccer is right around the corner. Just FYI, in case you're a soccer fan. If you're a European soccer fan, then you've already been doing it. But anyway.
You've already gone around the corner.
You've already gone around the corner. It's been.
It's here.
You're on the final part of it.
You got hit by the car already.
Yeah.
You already come around the corner. You got hit.
Right. First part of the show brought to you by The Range in Yakima. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting destination. At 34,000 square feet, The Range is an all-inclusive facility offering firearm training, retail sales and supplies, full gunsmithing and repairs, custom builds, and Cerakote services, all under one roof at The Range. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 7, Sunday 11 to 5. Go see our friends at The Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima. Phone numbers 509-571-1449. Make sure you mention the Best Lamb Sports Show at The Range. Educate, equip, and empower. So, Rams Bengals Super Bowl 56. It was good. There were some bad moments. There were some poor moments. How about that? I don't want to say bad, but for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 consecutive series in the second half ended with a punt.
Yeah.
And 5 of those 7 were 3 and outs. So when both defenses decided to play defense, it was no longer that exciting until the very end.
Well, there was a lot of periods where the Rams offense didn't seem like they had it going on even before that, but their defense was kind of letting stuff up, so the game was there was at least some offense happening, just not theirs. But once their defense stepped up, it quickly became a stalemate.
Yeah. So the Rams had, I don't know. I'm trying to look at it here. The Rams had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They had 11 possessions, right? 5 of them were 3 and outs. Okay. Two of them were interceptions.
Yep.
So there's 7 of the possessions right there. And so, there's
one of them was a garbage heave interception, and one of them was a tipped interception. I don't. It's so tough because I don't want to put those on Matt Stafford, but damn it, he gets them in the box. So
well, and you throw it. I mean, the one was basically a punt. Let's be honest.
It was basically a punt.
Yeah. So I mean, he threw it into the end zone, and it was 4th down, I think, anyway. So
and I don't think they were quite in field goal range.
Well,
it
was 3rd and 14 is what it was. So
I can't remember if they were in field goal range.
No, they were on the Cincinnati 43. It would have been a 60-yard field goal from there.
Yeah, it was a deep punt.
But still, yeah. So it would have brought up 4th down and 14, and you would have been punting it anyway. So you might as well just chalk that up as a punt. I mean, you're going for it, and it wasn't a great
True that.
Yeah, wasn't a great throw, but anyway. So the first half, 13-10 Rams, and you felt in the first half, I did anyway, the Rams controlled this football game.
They were winning it.
They were winning it.
Anything that the Bengals got, it was because the Rams misstepped.
Right. Exactly. And yet still at 13-10 you're like, I mean, this is anybody's football game.
For all the pieces that they have on their team, it sometimes does not seem like they quite know how to get an offense rolling.
And so we gotta be honest, the injury to OBJ, to Odell Beckham Jr. was huge. That changed everything.
They were
because
cruising.
Yeah,
they were well on their way to demolishing the Bengals, and then OBJ got hurt.
Correct, because the first touchdown was 17 yards, Matt Stafford to OBJ, and that
Great catch.
Yeah, oh yeah, and he looked like he was either. I mean, Cooper Kupp hadn't done much to this point.
Yeah.
But it was all OBJ. They couldn't stop both of them. There was no way they're going to be able to stop both of them.
Right.
Right. And even at this point, still about halfway through the first half, you still thought that the Rams could even run the ball.
Yeah.
And then OBJ goes out. They're doubling Cooper Kupp, and they're lining up to stop Cam Akers.
Yeah.
And it was working. Nobody else. There were dropped footballs, and Tyler Higbee's out. Odell Beckham Jr.'s out. Robert Woods is out.
Yeah,
the Rams were hurting.
Missing a couple really, really, really big pieces. And Van Jefferson played okay. Not great.
Not great.
But all of those backup receivers like Skoranek and
Skowronek.
Yeah, and there was another guy out there, but they didn't do anything to help the team. It was pretty much just Cooper Kupp.
No.
Matt Stafford and Cam Akers versus the other team. Well, and the line. I can't take away from Andrew Whitworth like that, but it was pretty much just
Bryson Hopkins had 4 catches for Los Angeles, and I'm going to be honest with you, I can't pick him out of a lineup. I wouldn't be able to. If you
said his name just now, I went,
who?
And then I went,
who?
Oh yeah,
the
one that they were talking about because the tight end was out.
Right, he had 4 catches on 4 targets. He caught everything they threw at him. For 47 yards.
That a lot of dudes get a Super Bowl ring.
it's true.
There are 53 guys on that roster. Every one of them gets a Super Bowl ring, and I don't know most of them.
And I don't. I mean, I know probably, and I'm just going to throw out a number. I probably know 40% of the offensive players because a lot of those are linemen, and I don't know all the linemen. Right?
Yeah.
But I know 40% of the offensive players.
Well, I feel like though somebody could say the name of a lineman, you go, oh yeah, that guy.
Well,
you'd recognize that.
Maybe, but I wouldn't be able to point to him and say that's that guy.
Of course, you wouldn't be able. You wouldn't be able to recognize him. Like if you were walking down the street, you would be like,
Odell Beckham. I could tell you who that is. Cooper Kupp. I could look at him and say, yeah, I know that. I know who that is.
Jefferson is. Yeah, I could tell you.
But not Bryson Hopkins.
Higbee, Johnny Munn.
Right. Some of them you just know from looking at them, and because you've seen them enough on TV. And then there's the defense, which I'm going to go with 20%. I might know 20% of defensive players.
Of their defense?
Of the defense, yeah, 20%.
Oh, I could probably pick out 60-70% of their defense.
Of the Rams defense?
Of the Rams defense.
You could
the Bengals defense probably sub 10%.
Hold on, I would tell you that you're right. I could probably pick out 60% of the starters, but not 60% of their total defense.
Oh, that's a good point.
But you're talking about guys that get a Super Bowl ring. There's a whole bunch of guys I have no idea. They played defense. Who's Buddy Howell? Buddy Howell got a tackle in the Super Bowl.
Doesn't he play for the Pacers?
These are some guys. And I go, I don't know who that is. I have no idea who that is. But anyway.
Being fair, like of the 53 players, I'd say 17 are special teams, and then the rest of them are split offense and defense. So you only have to remember 20 some odd players.
And and it's funny because I know Johnny Hecker and Matt Gay. I know those.
I know two. I can pick out 2 of their.
And Evan McPherson, who watched the halftime show. I love that, by the way.
I thought that was really cool.
That's great.
He just sat there and was like,
I mean, what is he?
What the hell are you going to teach him in the locker room?
Right, correct. Oh, kick it better.
Coach is going to look at him.
Kick that.
We gotta do this.
He did.
We gotta do that. And
he did everything they could have asked of him. He made every kick
all season.
And so there was no reason why I would have said, "Yeah, go watch it if you want."
He doesn't need any coaching. He's done nothing wrong.
The other thing we need to talk about is that the alternate passers game went to Cincinnati. Joe Mixon hit his one pass for 6 yards to T. Higgins for a touchdown, and Cooper Kupp just massively overthrew Matt Stafford. I mean, it was ridiculously. I mean, he was under a little pressure. I'll give him that. But that was
say that that's a pass I would have thrown.
I just sailed it, airmailed it into the first row.
Like, all right, gotta put it right there.
Whoosh. Super Bowl, a little bit of pressure. Oh, I'm gonna make this. Oh, he's wide open. Whoosh.
First time I ever thought I saw Cooper Kupp with nerves.
It was
like, dang it.
I mean, he was under some pressure. He still has a 39.6 quarterback rating. There are guys with worse quarterback ratings who actually completed passes.
Ryan Leaf.
just saying.
Any chance we get to take a shot at Ryan Leaf?
I mean, we do what we do. So we didn't even really talk about it. So the Rams used a 15-play, 79-yard drive that took 4:48 off the clock. Quarterback Matt Stafford hits Cooper Kupp for a 1-yard touchdown pass, gives the Rams a 23-20 lead over the Bengals with a minute 25 to go in the fourth quarter. Cincinnati gets the ball back, throws 2 quick passes, and they look like they're just going to drive down the field either for a tying field goal or a touchdown. The Rams, they didn't look like they had any stop. And then next thing you know, it's 3rd and 1, and they're trying to run the football with Samaje Perine. It wasn't even Mixon. Perine's a little bigger, and I get it.
Trying to get the 1 yard,
Trying to get that 1 yard for a first down, and instead of just continuing with a hurry-up go, they went snap and let's run it. And it didn't work. Aaron Donald, amongst others, grabs a hold of him and just holds him a yard short. Man, it might have even been a half a yard short. It was pretty close.
He was I think he was about half a yard. Yeah, but they marked him like a full yard.
Yeah, he was. It was really close. And then of course they go for it on 4th and 1, and no motion, no running, no scrambling by Joe Burrow. He stood right there in the pocket and let them get to him. Really. Aaron Donald made a great move around, and once he got a hold of him, then he was being spun, and he just kind of chucked the ball, trying to hope it went to somebody.
Well, kudos to him for being heads up about that. Like he was like, "Oh, this
didn't
is the
take
end of the game. If I go down, I have to sling this downfield. Hopefully, and you know what? I'm sitting over here going, somebody's gonna catch that." And
that's what it looked like too. It was headed for a guy, and I was like, "Oh no,
what is no way, Joe?
How did he just do that?
Complete this horse crap, and everyone's gonna talk about him for the next 20 years.
How fantastic he is for throwing it backwards over his shoulder."
Is Joe Burrow the next Mahomes? Look, 360 pass.
Oh my God! Yeah, I know. It was one of those. It was one of those things. When I saw it go up in the air, I was like, "Oh, he got it away!" And there was a guy in the area, and I'm like, "Oh."
I saw a little flash of Twitter future just blowing up and going,
"Yeah, greatest quarterback ever."
Greatest quarterback ever. Joe Burrow wins Super Bowl on a crazy play.
Anyway, so LA has just 43 yards on 23 carries rushing. They could not run the football.
Could not.
Not.
And being fair, neither could Cincinnati.
It's true. Well, it's true.
They did better, but
Cincinnati was better. But Cincinnati seemed like they didn't want to run the football ever.
It did not seem like that's what they were trying to do. They were content just to throw the ball a couple times and then punt it.
Right. It was weird. Mixon.
I don't know what the feel for the game was. I felt like I never had a good pulse on it.
Mixon had 15 carries for 72 yards for Cincinnati. That's 4.8 yards a carry. That's okay. That's good.
It's a decent day. Yeah. But you still want your running back to have 100 yards.
But you got to give it to him 20 times to do that, and they didn't. And I'm thinking, why were you not running the football more? It seemed like they were putting it all on Joe Burrow, wanting to make him a star. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, and Mixon had 70-something yards, but he had 2 20-yard carries.
Yeah.
And then, so that means that he had 13 carries for for 30 yards, and then 2 carries for like 40 yards. I guess that's how football is, but still, he was not getting it most of the time, and every once in a while he'd break out on like a first or second down. He'd run through the middle, and next thing he's up and moving.
I'm sitting here laughing at the announcers before the game or during the pregame stuff. They're telling me how elusive Joe Burrow was, in the same breath as they're telling me, well, he got sacked 9 times against Tennessee. Wasn't it Tennessee?
Against a much worse pass rush.
Right, and I was like, ooh, so he's been sacked coming into the Super Bowl. Just in the postseason, he had been sacked 12 times in 3 games. And I'm like, you're telling me how elusive he is, but he clearly doesn't seem to be elusive. And in this game, he did not look elusive, but like once or twice, right?
He had a couple scrambles, but they were just that. They were scrambles. They were scrambles that Peyton Manning could have made, and we all know how elusive Peyton Manning is.
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, it just was. I'm like, yeah. It seemed like he should have been running the football more. And later when he got his knee injury, I get why it wasn't at that point. But before in the first half, how come he wasn't scrambling to create a play? How come there wasn't more? He did it a couple times.
One time.
Yeah, he did it. He scrambled and actually got yards once, but he was just trying to scramble to pass. And I'm like, but not very far, because clearly he couldn't get very far because the Rams defense 7 sacks.
Coaching that got into his head. Coaches might have been like, "Hey, look,
you got to
keep your eyes up. Keep looking for the pass. It'll break open. That sort of thing."
And
he wasn't looking to scramble.
And I'm sure they had drilled it into his head because you could see the way they were throwing the football quickly was hurry up and get rid of it.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Like it's funny because I was watching it with Cassie and I said right away I was like, well, they're never going to get a sack because he's just getting rid of it. They're playing a game of let's get rid of this football as fast as possible.
And it was working.
Which made me wonder why they weren't running it because you don't want it to be in somebody's hands.
Right. Or draw play or something, you know what I mean? Just to mix it up, but they weren't doing that.
They were getting but I think they didn't highlight it on there, but somebody highlighted it on a YouTube cast that they were getting rid of the ball in like under 2 seconds. From the moment he stopped his stance, he was getting rid of the ball so fast.
It was fast.
Check down Joe.
Love
that running back.
Burrow was 22 of 33 for 263 yards and 1 touchdown. Again, sacked 7 times, 19 times in the playoffs. Stafford was 26 of 40, 283, 3 touchdowns, but he did have the 2 interceptions.
I'll give him 1.
One was on him.
They got to make that separate stat line.
Yeah, I don't know.
That goes against the receivers. I think it should be a stat line that goes against receivers for interceptions that are a direct result of a receiver. Because if the receiver doesn't touch that ball goes into the ground.
Well, it's
the
fun.
Receiver had to touch it.
We'll talk.
Popped up in the air.
We'll talk more about that here in just a minute.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. You're doing good. You're doing good. So, sorry, I got a little something here. Give me just a second here.
Got a little phlegm in the throat there.
Yeah, got a hunk of moussaka. Anyway,
that's what it is, hunk of moussaka.
So Cooper Kupp's named the MVP. He had 8 catches for 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. That last drive, he had 5 receptions, I think, on the final drive. And no, he had 4, but he actually caught the ball 5 times because he caught the ball in the end zone twice. And once got called back for the penalty, the offsetting penalties for the hold, and then the helmet-to-helmet contact that he took on the shot. He takes that helmet-to-helmet shot, and I thought, oh, goodness, he's stunned, right?
I thought he was concussed.
Yeah, he looks bad, and then immediately catches a touchdown pass right afterwards.
I mean, you hit those smelling salts on real quick, and you move back along with your day, I guess.
Gracious, but
he looked concussed to me. I was like, "Ooh, this guy's not great."
And then he ran on 4th and 1, ran for 7 yards. He had the highest average rush per carry. But
that's when the offensive coordinator Keena
called it.
Oh,
she absolutely did. She absolutely said, "Why don't they just put the ball in his hand? Why don't they let him run it?" And he did. And I was like, "Okay, well." That's clearly a good call.
I was calling down to the field. She says, "Put Sean on."
Sean, get Sean on the phone.
Sean, what are you doing?
It was interesting. Yeah. So anyway, the only thing he did wrong was that pass. The only thing he did really wrong in the game was miss that wide open pass. So here's my question. So we'll talk. I guess I need to move. To this. Well, you know what? Let's go to the trivia question.
Trivia question.
In the middle of our Super Bowl, because the trivia question is sack related.
Sack related.
So Burrow sacked 7 times in this game, 19 times in the playoffs, 51 times during the regular season.
That's quite a bit.
For a total of 70 sacks. He was sacked 70 times this year, which is a lot. My trivia question is this, it's a 3-part trivia question.
3 parts.
There are 3 separate questions, and they're all about sacks.
Jesus.
Okay. So number 1 should be fairly easy. Which quarterback has been sacked the most times in one season?
Gotcha. I know it.
Everyone should know that one. That's the free part of this. Here's the second one. What's the NFL record by most sacks by a team in one season? Sacking the other team. So for a defense, what's the record in terms of total number of sacks by one team in a season?
I think I know this. I think I remember seeing that.
If you can get
in a stat.
If you can get any part of that, the number, the team, or the year, I'll be okay with that.
I don't remember the year, but I know the team.
Okay.
At least I'm pretty sure I know the team.
And the third part, and probably the hardest part of this.
Okay.
What's the record for the fewest sacks in a season that a team has ever got?
Oh.
Right.
It's definitely a Tom Brady team, right?
No, not giving up a sack. I'm talking about the defense getting sacks. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the defense.
That's such a weird reverse stat.
So the first one is the quarterback being sacked the most times. Which quarterback has been sacked the most times in one season? Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
the other two are about the defense. Which defense? Because I'm looking at the Rams and how many sacks, and by the way, the Steelers have led or tied for the league lead in sacks for the last 6 years. right? That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, how come they aren't better? Anyway, whatever. So which team defense has recorded the most sacks in one season? And then secondly, which one has the fewest? So I'm not talking about a team giving up sacks. I'm talking about a team actually going and getting a defense getting a sack. Make sense?
So the first one was most sacked quarterback.
Most sacked quarterback in a single season. Because Joe Burrow just sacked 70 times this year. Right?
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
So what quarterback has been sacked more than him? there's a couple actually. But
okay, yeah, that's okay. It is yeah.
And then the other ones are defense. Which defense has recorded the most sacks in a single season? And then which defense has recorded the fewest sacks in a single season? That's the way I should have phrased it, probably.
It's fine because I know the first one, or at least I'm pretty sure I know the first one, and when I tell you why, it's gonna be funny.
I'm sure you know why, but all right, we'll get the answer at the end. You ready? Back to this. Which you saw OBJ go down, and you immediately knew it was a big deal because he was out, and you knew he was out.
Good.
The way he looked. You watched Joe Burrow go down, and I thought he was going to be out. That looked bad too. He was actually screaming.
Yeah, they said he waved off the doctors.
Well, of course he did. I'm not coming out because I'd rather lose this game because I can't move than win with someone else.
Walk again,
I don't want a backup quarterback to come in and steal my thunder. Anyway, which is probably what went through his mind, I'm guessing.
I'm sure that's what he was thinking.
And then also, Matt Stafford goes down. Right? With that ankle. They rolled up his ankle. And that one looked really bad. That one actually looked worse than the others to me. But he seemed to be okay. He seemed to bounce back from it. Didn't need a whole lot. Just taped him up.
Yeah.
But I thought those were going to be significant injuries and
it looked that way, didn't it?
And influence all three of them would influence the outcome of the game. And maybe the Joe Burrow one did because he wasn't as mobile after that. Maybe that's true. But the other ones didn't see. OBJ, I thought it influenced the game, but it didn't affect the outcome.
Picture on the screen of Joe Burrow screaming
right?
Play.
Doesn't that look like it's painful? And then he was on the ground. There's two pictures of it, and I only picked the one. The other one, he's on the ground after the play, and he still looks like he's screaming in pain. So how concerned are you as a Cincinnati Bengals fan that he hurt his other knee in this game, the one that didn't have surgery and end his season, his rookie season? Yeah. Because I would be really concerned that he might need some help off season, and then he's had surgery on both knees.
Yeah.
And how long do quarterbacks last who have had surgery on both knees? Not long.
Not long.
Anyway, just saying, I don't know how hurt he is or if he is, and they haven't released that, and who knows when we'll find out. But
I doubt they're going to say anything till after.
I wouldn't.
After what's it called? Till after the draft.
All right. So that brings up some other questions about this game. The lack of penalties for most of the game.
It was a quiet game, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, it wasn't quiet. There were penalties out there to be called, but they weren't calling anything. That was the weird part.
They were letting them play.
Yeah, pass interference. Nah, we're not calling. You're gonna what? You can do what? Grab the receiver by the face mask or the defensive back by the face mask and throw him to the ground. That's okay. We'll just let that one go. And you just want to. Everybody was tugging on every play. You can watch a defensive back with a handful of jersey or undershirt of somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like, and they only called like 2 at the end. Right?
Yeah.
Of those. And I'm going to tell you the one on Cooper Kupp, the one where
the first one,
Logan Wilson gets the holding call. It was pass interference because the ball was in the air. That's right.
Yeah.
Where it spotted the ball at the 1.
Yeah.
The reason he got that call, the reason that call came about is because he chose to wear orange gloves. His orange gloves show up bright on those white jerseys, and that is a dumb move. I would have worn if I was them, the Bengals or even the Rams. I would say, okay, they're wearing black jerseys, we're wearing black gloves. You know what I mean?
It's so funny because when I was at PSU, the defensive coordinator told the team, like, you can't wear. So if we're on the road and we're wearing white, or we're wearing we're wearing white on the road, you wear dark gloves. If we're at home, you wear light gloves.
Right.
Period. This isn't a debate. Don't wear your own gloves. Don't wear some crazy colors. This is what you wear. From a defensive standpoint, from an offensive standpoint, you want bright gloves. You want them to be able to see it.
See them, yeah.
But from a decent defensive standpoint, no.
Yeah.
You wear gloves that relatively match the color of the other
team. Of the other team's jersey, that's right.
Yeah, you do not do that because it's so, like you said, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
It's so obvious.
If this bright orange glove is on this white jersey and you can see the hole.
They look cool though.
They do look cool. He's not wrong. It was you got to accessorize. It's important. So there was that, and then there was the push by Aaron Donald on Joe Burrow, pushed him out of bounds as he was running, and it was a legal hit. He was in bounds. You know what I mean? His hands were off of him before he ever stepped out of bounds, and the offensive line for Cincinnati took offense to it, and that actually
QB, that sort of thing.
I get it. I understand why you're trying to protect him. Although when I watched it, I go, he was in bounds. There's no reason to be getting grumpy about it. But all they did was rile up the LA defense. I mean I think that set and the Cincinnati. There were three separate occasions in that little scrum where a Cincinnati offensive lineman hit an LA player in the helmet, in the face. And none of that was called. I was like, well, you're not going to throw a single penalty for any of this that just happened. It was amazing. They were swallowing the whistle big time. It was clearly they were taking the NBA approach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let them play it out.
And I liked it for the most part, but then when it comes time where you have to throw a penalty, now they go, why didn't you throw it earlier? How come it wasn't a penalty earlier?
Well, but see, that's just it. You're never gonna please
No.
everyone, right? Like everyone's gonna be like, well, you threw it on this, but you didn't throw it on that. Well, you threw it on this, you didn't throw it on. Everyone who's like, oh, well, that Cooper Kupp penalty was garbage at the end. The first one, not the second one. The first one, the one on third down.
Right.
A lot of people think it was soft. And it's like, yeah, but they missed the call earlier. And somebody goes, but they missed the call earlier than that. It's like,
right.
Yeah, you're never gonna make everyone happy with it. I felt like it was called fairly balanced. Nothing too significant one way or another to cause a problem or an issue. It just sucked that the Bengals couldn't not hold Cooper Kupp in prime time.
Yeah, no, it was and
He's
it was
just that much better.
He was clearly and to be fair, it's happened to every team that they've played.
Every team.
Tampa had them, really. Until he breaks loose for a big long play and you're like, you have him the whole game and all of a sudden it's one play, boom, and he's beating you.
Cooper Kupp had one of the best receiving seasons that the NFL has ever seen in its entire history. And there's a reason for it because he's damn good at getting away from you.
Yeah.
So, it's a matter of time before somebody grabs a hold of him. And it happens. I remember in the Tampa game. Yeah, you said it happened in the Tampa game. They held him a couple times, not in a row, but like on a couple different drives they held him because he's getting away from their best guy. It doesn't matter who it is. Whoever you got, he's going to break him.
Cooper Kupp in the playoffs, by the way, it's 4 games in the playoffs where they crushed Arizona, they beat Tampa, they beat San Francisco, and then the win in the Super Bowl. Has 33 catches, right, in 4 games. So that's what, 8 a game. That's not anything super sterling, but it's good, right? Yeah. He has 480 yards receiving in 4 games. That's 120 yards a game. That is big.
That's huge.
That is big when you're only catching 8 per game, right?
Yeah.
And he had 6 touchdown catches in those 4 games. If you equate that over a regular season, if they played 17 games, that's 1.5 a game in the playoffs. If you did that during the regular season, you'd be talking about a guy with 25 touchdown catches during the regular season. And it's amazing. I mean, to me,
he didn't drop off at all.
No, he was even better in those numbers. Were even better than his regular season.
And he was good in the clutch.
In the clutch. He did it when it mattered.
Yeah, he was good against Tampa when it mattered. He was good against the Bengals when it mattered.
Yeah.
Those other 2 games were good, but these games are the ones we're talking about.
Yeah, the rest of that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he was fantastic when it mattered. He got open when it mattered and put pressure on him. And gosh, that picture just popped up of Matt Stafford with his foot underneath that Bengals player.
It looks like it hurts.
It's giving me the heebie-jeebies.
It just looks like it hurts. And the last thing we want to talk about is, should Cooper Kupp have been the MVP? Because Aaron Donald influenced this game in a huge way. The stats may not have shown what you'd like them to see. You know what I mean? In terms of his overall stats for the game. But and I'm just going to say, so Aaron Donald had 4 tackles, right? One, he had 3 quarterback hits and 2 sacks. So it was that's a big game, and that huge stop on third down.
Yeah.
And he chased down Joe Burrow and ran him out of bounds, and you know what I mean? There was just plays everywhere.
A lot of little things he did right.
Yeah, he influenced this game, I think, maybe more than Cooper Kupp did. But obviously, you're going to give it to the offense because that's just how the NFL works. It is that glory kind of thing. And then if we're going to talk about giving it to the offense, T. Higgins had 4 catches for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but frickin' one of them was.
Yeah, but you can't. They didn't call anything.
Ridden.
They don't call it. They don't call it.
But you don't give MVP to the loser. So get out of here.
Well, not very often. That's for sure.
No, I think it's happened once or twice, but I don't think you ever should.
Right.
I need in order for me to feel comfortable giving the MVP to the team that lost, I'm gonna need a receiver with 250 yards and 4 touchdowns, or a defensive tackle with 5 sacks, 6
Right.
sacks. I need a real effort, not just an average game effort. I need a real effort for it to be for me to do that. Otherwise, somebody on the team that won deserves it more.
All right, that's fair.
But Cooper Kupp did deserve it. Aaron Donald deserved it, even though he was offsides on that last play. Have you seen the picture of that?
I mean, maybe.
He was clearly offside.
Yeah.
But Cooper Kupp deserved it, and I think here I'm gonna go further with this take.
Uh-oh.
If he wins MVP, he doesn't win Super Bowl MVP.
Oh, you think so?
I think that was a bit of a consolation for him not winning MVP.
Maybe.
I think
I think Aaron Rodgers probably still got votes for Super Bowl MVP. So, I mean, I'm just saying.
Right.
Tom Brady probably did for sure.
There's Chris Collinsworth definitely wrote in Tom Brady.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did.
Here's a guy who's great.
And can I ask you another question about this? When did Chris Collinsworth's son become a commentator, and why is he a commentator?
I didn't know his son was he part of this broadcast?
Yeah.
I didn't hear. I didn't.
He's not one of the main guys, but during the pre-stuff, he does interviews with people, and you'll hear when you see him, you don't really put it together, but when you hear his voice, you go, "Oh crap, he just sounds like Chris Collinsworth." He does. Sounds exactly like his dad. And I don't know how you get that gig. I mean, I'm not saying there's nepotism involved, but there's probably nepotism involved. So, just interesting. I find it interesting who becomes a commentator.
Is his name Jake or Jacques?
Yes.
It's spelled J-A-C.
I think it's Jack.
Okay.
I think it's just Jack.
That's such a stupid thing to do.
Well, I mean,
it's a stupid thing to do.
It's a C because all the Collinsworths, start with a C, and Chris Collinsworth is CC, and what I mean.
This could be Parker's minute later on, but we'll see. Why would you do this? Why would you actually force your child to have to constantly say, "My name is Jack," but without a K? For the rest of his life, you would force him to have to say that statement.
I think they should have. And if it had been me, I would have named him Jack and just the right way, spell it the right way, and just say the K is silent.
The K is silent. Yeah, it's easier that way.
It is easier to explain that way
than to intentionally have him spell it in some funky ass way. And have him have to correct people for the rest of his life.
Because there's a 5th grade teacher somewhere who looked at that name and went, Jacques? Is it
what
Jacques?
I just did a few seconds ago.
How do you pronounce that? Jack? Oh. Well, why didn't they just spell it right? Anyway.
They forced him to have. They forced young Jack there has to have that conversation thousands of times
during his life. Yep. Absolutely.
For no reason other than
I agree.
Because somebody just was like, it's cooler looking this way. Here's a guy who just doesn't need
a K. He's so cool he doesn't need a K in his name. I don't know. This kind of that's not where I was headed with this, but all right, yeah. I just want to know how he got that gig because I've never heard of him before in sports. All of a sudden, he's on the same channel as his dad, and you didn't even know it was him. So
I had no clue. I was not putting it together.
I was watching it, going, "How did his son get a gig like this? This is pretty awesome." And maybe he is qualified. Maybe he went to Northwestern journalism school. I don't know. It's probably not true, but whatever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, moving on.
Moving on from that, let's talk about our second sponsor, the second half of the show, Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Make sure to tune in to BossKittyLive.com for knit-alongs, exclusive sales, games, fun. You can go on to BossKittyShop.com and get your DK and fingering weight yarns as well as stitch and progress markers. If you're looking for a gift, you can get them the Boss Kitty Shop virtual gift card and let them pick it out themselves. That's Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Yarn so boss, you'll knit your pants. So, let's talk about some things from this is our second half of the show. So Kyler Murray's back in the news because he wants to be, is my guess, because that's the reason why he was in to begin with, right? He wanted to be in the news and said, I'm going to delete all the Cardinal stuff from my social media, right? Going to get rid of it. And so he did that, and it caused a big stir, like what's going on? Part of this all stems from he thinks that he might have been treated unfairly or was getting undue criticism for Arizona's really terrible game against the Rams
over
in the playoffs.
The last couple years being terrible late.
And, late in the season, just in general. I think that's more coaching than it's Kyler Murray, but whatever.
He's being ridiculous.
So I think he got he got hurt. He got his feelings hurt. And so then he was angry at the organization maybe for not backing him up, or I don't know what the reason was, but he, and then he comes out with the new quote, which is, all of this nonsense is not what I'm about. Well, I'm sorry, Kyler, you started the nonsense. You know what I mean? You didn't have to do what you did. You started nonsense, and now you're telling me this is not what I'm about. Well, clearly it is because you're doing it. So I'm confused as to whether it is or isn't the nonsense.
I hate that he decides to speak but not address the thing.
Right. Why did you do it?
This is clearly the nonsense you are about because you're still not talking about the thing
right.
that everyone is talking about. When people go, why did you delete the stuff and everything? You go, all this nonsense is not what I'm about.
Right.
It's like, that's not an answer, bro.
That's not an answer, and you should...
I'm going to just still tell me why you did it. Otherwise, I'm going to believe you're still doing it for attention there. I mean... Just because he looks like a baby doesn't mean he has to act like one. Ayo.
And I'm gonna just tell you that I'm all about the nonsense because it makes for great news and talking points. Because
that's right.
I'm okay with nonsense, but nonsense it all was. And I don't know why you would come out and do what you did and then never address it and say why you did it and then tell us, oh well, that's not what I'm about. Well, you are until you tell us otherwise.
Well, and see, this is the problem that I see with all of these guys. So last year, Russell Wilson had off-season drama, right? And the first time he came out and spoke, and he says, "I'm just focused on getting better and doing the best I can." And it's like that's not an answer to everything that's going on. It clearly benefits you to not say something right now, and everyone freaking knows that. Right. You ain't slick, man. We all know that you're being kind of a jerk right now. Kyler's being a jerk. Russell Wilson was being a jerk. Like it just. Talk about the problem or don't talk at all. Or continue to shut up.
Yeah, I mean, what's the deal with that? I don't know. It seemed weird.
This is not a shut up and dribble statement. This is a address the issue or don't address the issue at all. I'm confused as to why you'd half-ass the issue, just like you half-ass your playoff run, Kyler.
Ooh. Oh. I wouldn't even call it a playoff run.
Your playoff.
You guys were in the playoffs for 6 minutes.
You did about as good in the playoffs this year as the Broncos did.
It was ugly, and I like I said, I'm not blaming Kyler Murray. He looked bad in that game, but I'm gonna blame that it was part him and part coaching and part play calling and the fact that the Rams are just good.
Rams are good. They're a good team. I mean, they won a Super Bowl.
You play them again and see what happens. I don't know that you're going to beat them. So I mean, I don't have confidence that the Cardinals are that team. Although that was a team that was 7-1 to start the season. Anyway,
7-1 and ended in the 4 seed, 5 seed.
Yeah, they ended 11-6 or something, and
jeez.
and just a disastrous playoff game. All right, let's move along from Kyler because he's awesome. Let's talk about the Portland Trailblazers, who are now 24-34. They're back in that 10th slot in the
figuring out basketball.
They're back in what do you call it? Is it the last playoff spot or the last play-in spot?
It's a play-in spot.
But it's still a playoff game.
It's, yeah.
All right.
But that's not what it is. The playoffs are 8 teams.
That's not what it is.
There's a play-in into the playoffs.
There's a play-in.
Just like if you're in the waiting room at a restaurant, you're not eating at the restaurant yet.
Hold on now. So Major League Baseball does the same thing where the 2 wild card teams have a 1-game playoff.
But the wild cards have been considered a part of the playoffs in baseball.
So officially, since they aren't playing a series, it's a play-in game.
No, the length of games isn't the determining factor here. The amount of games isn't the determining factor here.
I feel like it is.
It purely has to do with how the league chooses to designate it. The league designates 8 teams as the NBA. The league designates 8 teams as being in the playoff, and then 4 teams, or really it's 7 teams initially, but 4 teams compete for the 8th spot. But
yeah, I don't like it.
It's like I said, they're in the waiting room to go eat or something like that. You know, you just because you're in the building doesn't mean you're a part of the event yet.
Is that what that is? Right. You still have the little buzzer in your hand.
Buzzer,
yeah, you still
waiting for you still everyone goes, "Oh, come on."
Right? You're still eating the peanuts in the lobby.
That people don't do that anymore, especially and also now it's like a COVID thing. Nobody does that.
The peanuts?
No, not the peanuts, the buzzer.
Either one. Because he can't be sharing public peanuts.
I've always thought that peanuts in a restaurant was the dumbest idea.
You know why? Do you know why
they're not that filling?
Do you know why they do it?
Because they're filling? Is that what their idea is behind it?
They don't want to fill you up. They're trying to get you to have salty taste in your mouth so you'll buy drinks.
That's how they get you.
That's what they do at the bar. There's pretzels and popcorn and nuts. For what reason? Because salty things make you drink more.
That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. Here, have some free peanuts while you're waiting to be seated. When you sit down, you're going to want a beverage or two. So there you go. Which I think you can get the beverage while you're eating the peanuts. You don't even have to wait. Anyway, never mind. But they're in the last playoff spot, and they got a win over the Milwaukee Bucks on Monday night. I'm not sure how Giannis didn't play.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Because they got their behinds handed to them in the game that I watched them play Milwaukee at home.
Same exact team, but with
Giannis.
With
Giannis. Yeah. Anyway, it was 122-107 over the Bucks on Monday night. They're in that last playoff spot. Everyone knows they traded C.J. McCollum, Tony Snell, Larry Nance Jr. to the Pelicans last week, and they received what? Josh Hart, Tomas Satoransky, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Didi Louzada, as well as a first-round pick in 2022. It's a protected pick, but 5th through 14th, somewhere in that ballpark.
And then they immediately dealt some of those guys.
And 2 second-round picks, right? Yeah. And then this is part of their whole rebuilding. They're trying to rebuild around Damian. Apparently, that's the quote.
It's the dream.
That's the talking point. Then they traded Alexander Walker to Utah and Satoransky to San Antonio in a 3-way deal where the Blazers got Joe Ingles from the Jazz, who, by the way, can't play the rest of the year. He's out for season-ending stuff.
That's Utah getting rid of their, what's it called, their cap. Somebody's going to cap hit next year.
And they got a 2022 second-round pick. So they've been acquiring draft picks, which is good. And they lowered their cap. They're under the luxury tax threshold, so that's good. They're making some room so they can make a free agent push for somebody to help Damian Lillard, in addition to getting some more young talent. I think Simons is a great player. I think he's going to be a great player. He clearly showed that he can score in this league, so it's not a thing. I don't know that. Here's what I feel like Portland's been missing forever, and that's a true point guard. You can call Damian a point guard if you want to. He is a shooting guard. That's what he does. He scores, right? He's not that great at distributing the basketball. He's good and sufficient, but when he and CJ are on the court, that's 2 guards that I don't consider either one of them a point guard. Call me crazy. Those are 2 guys that are scorers. So, and Simons is kind of the same way. I don't consider him necessarily a point guard. He's a shooting guard. He's a guy who can score points. You need someone who can distribute a basketball and find an open man when it's necessary and doesn't care about his particular scoring average.
Yeah, but that's not a position that exists like that anymore.
Understood.
There's Chris Paul, and there's nobody else.
Well, it's true.
Nobody does that.
There are few and far between anymore. But
I would argue that there's, of the 32 NBA teams, there's probably, or is it 30 NBA teams? Crap, I don't know. 30 NBA teams? I don't know. I'd argue there's probably 3 of those guys. They're the starting point guards who are actually point guards. Everyone else is basically using a shooting guard as a point guard.
Yeah.
It's not just few and far between. It's not the standard practice anymore.
Well,
your point guard has to score.
They do other things now. It's true. But you're also talking about a different. I mean, you're talking about the top guys in assists this season. Chris Paul's number 1. James Harden's number 2.
Yeah.
DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, Luka Doncic. Those are your top assist guys.
See, would you consider Trae Young a actual
true point guard?
Because he's in the vein of Steph Curry.
Yeah,
and
it's
I
true.
Don't consider Steph Curry. I consider Steph Curry to be a shooting guard, but that's why you just call him guards.
So let me tell you what my thought process is. The teams that I've seen be successful throughout the NBA history, and it's different now because of the way the game is played, it's differently. But the teams that I've seen be successful had a good scoring guard. They have a forward that can score. Small forward, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", maybe, that scores points, that is flexible, that is an athletic guy. They have a true point guard that can distribute to the guys that can score, and a center that could take over a game and dominate a game whenever it's necessary. And what I see now is that we don't do centers anymore.
It's because it's small ball. They have to be able to come out and cover the 3-point shot.
Right. Which everyone shoots now. So the 3-point line has kind of changed the way everybody plays basketball.
Not that the 3-point line has changed the way everyone plays basketball, because that 3-point line existed for the last 30 years. It's the last 10 years that people have decided to start utilizing the 3-point to that extent.
Right. No, but it has progressively gotten used more and more as we've gone along since it started.
I feel like it went down. I felt like in the 90s it started to get used a bunch. Well, obviously, when did they bring it in? Was it the 80s or was it the 70s?
It's 1981.
1981. So I feel like in the 80s, obviously they used it a little bit, but some people were resistant to it. In the 90s, it started getting used pretty heavily. But then the early thousands, everything went right back to bully ball, and people started pushing and shoving and getting big men in bodies and things like that. That's why Shaq had such success when he did. Shaq couldn't. I don't think Shaq could compete in today's league in that regard because he can't defend out.
No, it's true.
But and then about 2010, 2011, people started heaving them up. From a foot from the 3-point line, from a foot behind the 3-point line, from 3 feet behind the 3-point line, and now everyone's doing it. And now you have whole waves of draft picks that can all shoot the 3 at a 70% clip if they're open.
It's true. Yeah,
that was never a thing. It's extended the game, so centers have to move. You can't have big centers, and if you do have big centers, Jokic, they have to shoot the 3 as well.
Yeah. It's one of those things when I watch, and now I'm sitting here looking through the past 20 years worth of assist leaders, right? And if your name's not Steve Nash, you're probably not on this list. Yeah. But he's like him and Jason Kidd and Chris Paul are the only 3 that occur regularly.
It's not a normal position to have that
not anymore.
Point guard. Not for a while. People just don't do that. It's not a real position anymore. It's just shooting guards. That's why they stopped calling them point guards. They're just guards. In general, and front court, back court, that sort of thing.
Yeah. All right.
Front court players and back court players. Okay. But yeah, the Blazers look good. They've won a couple in a row now.
They're better. I mean,
they're trying not to get a draft pick, and I don't know why.
Could just be that it was Giannis. Giannis was. They're playing at Memphis tonight, so
that'll be a big one because Memphis is still trying to get there.
And Memphis is one of those teams that beats Portland regularly. Portland has struggles with Memphis for some reason.
Funny, the only Memphis Portland game I ever went to, Portland smoked them.
Yeah. Well. Traditionally, Memphis is one of those teams. So the other big news, and I haven't been clicking my things, but there's your picture of Simons, and there's CJ in his Pelicans debut.
I'll buy a CJ Pelicans jersey. I like CJ.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. The other big trade that we haven't talked about yet was this guy right here. The aforementioned James Harden gets traded from Brooklyn to Philly. For it was a 5-player deal, but it basically Ben Simmons for James Harden with additional stuff thrown in. Yeah, with additional stuff thrown in. I think that Philadelphia is a clear winner.
No.
I think Philadelphia wins. They get rid of Ben Simmons, who wasn't doing anything for them and didn't want to do anything for them, for someone who can actually do something for them down the playoff stretch.
Yeah, in that regard, I think they're a winner. They had somebody who was doing nothing, and now he's doing something.
Yeah. It's a big deal for them to acquire someone who can actually help them win some basketball games.
But that's to say that Brooklyn did at the end of the day, did Brooklyn get the better player? Did Brooklyn get the guy who's both a defensive and an offensive presence? Mind you, we don't know if he can shoot. We don't, and all this mental health stuff.
Right.
I'm pretty sure he's just faking. He was just faking it to get out of there.
It's all nonsense.
Because he's right back at practice now.
It's all nonsense. It's not what he's about.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not about this. Yeah, but I don't think they won. I don't think they got the trade or they won the trade. I think that Brooklyn did.
I feel like Brooklyn had this. Oh, we're gonna be like Golden State. We're gonna be that like the Miami Heat when they moved when LeBron moved down there. We're gonna create this super team, right? And you had the guys. Don't tell me that Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden can't win you a title. Something's wrong there.
That's not what they're saying. Yeah. Well, I mean, Kyrie Irving's only there for half the games.
Well, that's on him. That's
Kevin Durant.
Bad decision.
Hurt a lot.
That's true too.
So somebody mentioned this to me. Brandon Roy and Brandon Roy and somebody else have played together in more games than James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving have. It was Brandon Roy and somebody else who's on the Blazers and like a Marcus Aldridge or something like that. They played together in more games than those 3 have, and it's like what?
Yeah, it seems weird. But
they've had issues.
I love Brandon Roy. I wish never. Yeah.
Everyone wishes he would have stuck around. He could not gotten injured.
Yeah.
But I think that Brooklyn won this. I think that they've got the better piece that fits them.
We'll find out because Brooklyn needed something. Brooklyn finally won a basketball game the other day. Where's that? I can't get it to pop up. Now it's here. So Brooklyn's in the 8th playoff spot, and they're 1-9 in their last 10, but they won the last one. So maybe things are looking up. I don't know, but Philly's up there in the top 6, and that Eastern Conference. They're only 2.5 games out of first place, so I don't know who's the best team.
1-9 in their last 10. They're still 3 games above 500.
They're still 3 games above 500. They were winning games, but they weren't winning enough games. It was just, part of that's the fact that Kyrie just go get vaccinated. You wouldn't have to worry about half this stuff. But hey,
he's got something to prove though.
I guess I don't know what it is. He's gonna prove that he. So next year, do I only get to pay you for half this season?
Oh, I guarantee you that'll be a conversation.
It will be for sure.
It'll be more than a speculation like this year. It'll be an actual thing. Like, look, we like you, man. We want you to stay on board, but we're not going to pay you for 82 games if you're only going to play in 40.
Correct.
That is what it is.
That is exactly what that conversation I would have had with him. Is that you're only going to play half the games, you're going to get half the pay.
You're a fantastic player. You deserve a max contract, so we'll take a max contract and we'll cut it in half.
Cut it in half. That's right.
And that's what we'll pay.
And for every game over the 40, the 41, then we'll pay you for those games as you play them.
That's right.
Yeah. So
imagine if getting vaccinated was worth like $20 million to you.
Oh, absolutely. People would do it. I mean, but if there's no repercussions, then why do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Let's move along from basketball. Nathan Chen wins a gold for the U.S. men, or for the U.S. in men's figure skating. He was dominant, clearly. If you didn't watch it, he was really, really good. Just you can watch it on NBC on demand, I think. But he was fantastic. The U.S. women's hockey team is playing the gold medal game against Canada in a rematch. They lost to Canada earlier in the preliminary rounds, but so they have a chance to win gold again. U.S. and Canada are the only 2 women's hockey teams that have ever won a gold medal since they started this. I want to say this is now 6 or 7 Olympics, and the U.S. and Canada are the only 2 that have ever won.
Which bent rest of the world.
I mean, why would you even show up if you're anybody else? There's no.
North America or bust.
It's ridiculous. The U.S. men's hockey team did well. They got out of the preliminary round, made it to the quarterfinals. And by the way, there are no NHLers in the Olympics because of COVID. The NHL said we're not doing that. So it's just college guys. And the U.S. men's team made it out of the preliminary round, out of the round robin, and they got to the quarterfinals where they got beat today or last night by Slovakia in overtime in a shootout. So they're out. They no medal for the men, but they did well actually, considering there's no NHLers. It's just a bunch of college kids.
Somebody tried to hit me with that last night. I tried to say, "Oh, it's the first Olympics ever with no NHL players," and I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not because of their choice. Because the NHL said you can't do it."
Right. And
there's a qualifier there. And
it's not exactly true because it used to be amateurs.
Right.
Before they allowed NHL players. So, 1980 when the United States men won, there was no NHLers in that.
Well, maybe that stat they were talking about the modern era. Or
since they allowed them, this is the first time that no one's played. So, but anyway, the NHL just didn't want to have more COVID come back from there and then not be able to play any games moving forward because they've already suffered a lot of delays and postponements.
Watered down the sport, watered down the Olympics.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants what's it called? It's capitalism, right? If anybody wants a great view of capitalism, it's that we're going to suffer in the Olympics because our sport over here that makes money,
right?
We can't afford to let these guys go.
so U.S. Bobsledder, and I'm going to call it that for now because we're going to talk about Kaylee Humphreys won gold in the women's monobob.
I watched that.
And Alana Myers-Taylor won silver. So the U.S. goes 1-2 in the first ever women's monobob. And I want to ask this question. Why is it called monobob and not just bobsled? Because the other bobsled events are 2-man and 4-man bobsled. So this would just be bobsled. But we called it monobob. Not 1-man bobsled. Well, how come the other one's not duobob?
Duobob.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. What's the naming criteria?
It's more fun to call it monobob.
It is. I am not going to argue that it is more fun to say monobob, but I'm just it doesn't make any sense. There's no pattern to it. 2-man bobsled, 4-man bobsled, monobob. Not 1-man bobsled, and not just bobsled. We're going to call it something completely different. It just sounds weird. That's all. I mean, you're right. It's more fun to say. And by the way, the suggestion has been floated out there that it should be Babs sled.
Babs sled. I've heard that. I think it's funny. It just sounds goofy.
For the women?
Babs sled.
Babs sled.
Here's the thing I don't understand, though. Kaylee Humphries is a defector. She was a Canadian Olympic representative in 2010 and 2014 and 2018.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she's like, to hell with Canada. I'm going to go compete for America instead.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
She got grumpy at the coaches.
She got grumpy at the coaches and then just bounced like it was free agency
to a different
country.
The Olympics has become that. This is not new.
Well, that's because of Russia. Russia has a bunch of athletes competing wherever the hell they want.
It is not uncommon for an athlete to have parents from mixed. My dad is German. My mom is from Finland, right?
Yeah.
And so now, do I play for the German national team? And we live in Germany. I was born in Germany. I'm a German citizen, but my mom is Finnish, so I want to be Finnish.
Well, that's the Max Verstappen thing, right?
Because
choosing to be Austrian instead of the other thing.
Because Germany won't let me play on their team. I'm not good enough to make this team, but I am good enough to make that team. And
here's the
that's
thing.
What happens.
She just became a citizen in January.
This is why the Olympics gets watered down too. I don't have as much respect as I used to because they allow people to swap countries like free agency. It's no joke.
Yeah, but beside that, I think we're overlooking the point here. January, she just became. Was she practicing as a Canadian this whole time?
Well, she must have been because she wasn't a U.S. citizen.
Right, but she had to qualify. Qualifying events weren't in January.
No, that's true.
How did she qualify for the U.S. with like a pending citizenship?
Visa. She was on some sort of citizenship visa, like she was going to become a citizen.
I didn't know you could be on a visa and compete for the team. Why can't I go for a work visa to live in Italy and compete for the Italian team?
You should be able to.
You should be able to if you're that good.
Yeah.
The Italian bobsled team needs help.
I don't know if they do or not. I don't know where they finished in this stuff. I have no idea. But Jamaica needs help. You can go there.
Jamaica, we got that bobsled.
So that's the only. I don't know why they do it, but it happens in all the sports now, and I don't like it. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way they've allowed it to happen. And it makes a kind of a mockery of things. It's like, oh, well, now I have a disagreement with this coaching staff, so I'll just go become another country's participant. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how you can do that.
I mean, I get that she was in the process of already becoming a U.S. citizen, because through marriage and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me that she was allowed to qualify for America while not being an American citizen, and then after she was approved, she just competes for. I'm not against it. I don't have a problem with it. Go USA, win some medals, whatever. It doesn't really matter. There's athletes bouncing around all over the place, so it's not like anybody's benefiting more than the other.
Right.
But I didn't know that was possible.
It's a thing apparently. I don't know how it works, but
her thighs are bigger than me.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're huge.
That running the push start is what it's all about. And
they said the bobsled's like 300 and something pounds.
Yeah, but it's on ice. It's different.
Yeah. So it's like half.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that big a deal.
I don't know, man. Did you see they get up? So the men's and women's were doing the same. They're doing the same track.
You're right.
The men's team was running in like the 3-point somethings.
Yeah.
Or 3 minutes. Is it 3 minutes for their total time or something like
that?
Oh,
I don't know. Anyways, it's 4 different runs though. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like 3-point something, and the women's were 5-point something, and when the women take off, they were getting up to about 18 miles an hour, and when the men were taking off, they're getting up to about 23 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah.
It's
a full-on sprint.
Yeah, and I see them screaming while they're taking off, and I get it. Because they're hauling ass.
Right, and it hurts probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of push. I mean, and it used to be you could rock the sled before you went. They would there's a right there was they don't allow that anymore. So now it's one push. You got to go from the go. So you pull it back and then go. And so that takes a lot of effort just to get it started.
Cassius convinced me that I should be the back guy in the 2-man bobsled.
The brake guy?
It's not the brake guy, is it?
The guy in the back, the guy in the front does the steering. The guy in the back.
Oh, you don't need the brakes till later.
No, not until the end. It's
but so like the average, like the height is about 6 foot. The weight's about 240 or so.
Yeah.
And you just gotta have sprint speed. That's it.
Get involved in that.
You run and you push, and then you jump in the back and you wait.
It's only 5 seconds, like 4 seconds. That's all you have to push for.
Yeah.
And then
I think I can do that.
And then you got to jump in without spiking your friend.
or spike them a little bit.
I mean,
okay.
I want to know how many times the guys in the 4-man bobsled in positions 1, 2, and 3 have been spiked. Because the back guy doesn't have that problem. He's never going to get a spike in the back. But 1, 2, and 3 have to have holes in their back constantly. I mean, I don't know.
I saw the guy in the back jumping on the 2-man, and he immediately dips his head down. And I thought, when his head smacks into the back of the guy.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure that's a thing
him
too.
And then he headbutted him.
Yeah, I mean, the later in life injuries from the bruised spine and all that stuff. Whatever. I mean, Lindsay. So Lindsay Jacob Ellis was the first two-time gold medalist in these games. She's won 2 in snowboarding. So the U.S. has done some good things. Snowboarding is one of those things I don't. So the X Games stuff that came in, the big air and the half pipe and the stuff that is subjective, that requires judging, I hate it. I absolutely can't stand it. By the way, any of those.
For the same reason, I think they should get rid of figure skating.
Yeah, unless you can make it objective, an objective scoring system.
Quantifiable. It needs to have a stat.
It shouldn't be about, I thought it was pretty. I didn't think it was that pretty. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, who cares?
Slalom runs are fun. Like, you can do the slalom stuff because that's downhill speed and timing and things like that. You have markers you have to hit.
The snowboard cross that they have, that's fantastic. I love it. I think that's a great thing because it's just like the skiing, and we should have more of those things. But the freestyle skiing things, like moguls, I don't understand what happened. We're trying to get us down the hill as fast as we can, but we also want to look pretty and do these jumps in the middle of it. And I'm like, wait a minute, when you start combining time and another component that isn't objective based, now it's a matter of what judge gives you the best score, and I don't like that. Judging things, it's always been that way. Diving in the Summer Olympics, the same way. It's a judge scoring you.
Well, but I feel like they could do diving with the technology we have now. I feel like they could do diving like as a point of efficiency, like smallest splash.
They could measure it for somehow, or your verticality when you come in.
Splash. That's right. Yeah, your angle's correct. If your angle is this and your splash is this, then you get this score. But yeah, it's still anything that requires a group of people to go, I liked that or I didn't like that.
Right, it's not okay.
Based you on that, it's not right. That's not how sports are. Sports are
a
point for a thing.
Yeah, so. A point for a thing. That's exactly.
Point for a touchdown, point for a basket, point for a goal, point for a home run. It's a point for a thing.
Right. Here's your current NHL standings, and why? By the way, I said Crosby. I wanted. I sitting here trying to think. I was trying to think of Sidney Crosby's first name, and all that was coming to me was Max originally. And I'm like, no, he plays for the Raiders.
Wrong one.
I know who he is. Sidney Crosby just became the second current NHL player with 500 career goals last night. And the Pittsburgh Penguins have won 4 straight. They're now on top of the Metropolitan Division. And don't get me started about the name Metropolitan. I don't understand why we're calling it that when you have Columbus in there. Columbus is in no way Metropolitan. But, okay. And so, anyway, Pittsburgh's on top of that division. And this is just brief, ahead of Carolina by 3 points. You got the Atlantic Division. Tampa Bay still leading that. Tampa Bay and Florida. If you're not from Florida, doesn't count in the Atlantic Division, apparently.
I don't think we should call them the Atlantic Division because they got Toronto in there.
Well, Detroit is in no way Atlantic.
But I mean, the majority of it's accurate.
Well,
the majority of the Metro Division's accurate.
Kind of.
No, not kind of. Of the Metro Division.
Oh, the Metro Division. So what do you?
The Metro Division, they're pretty much all big places.
What's the Metro part of that? Charlotte, North Carolina?
No. So that's what I'm saying is that there
Columbus.
is an exception, obviously.
Yeah.
They're the one exception, but for the most part, calling it the Metro Division would be accurate.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
But the Atlantic one, for the most part, calling it Atlantic would be accurate.
Yeah, I mean,
is there anybody from the Atlantic that you would put in the Metro? Toronto?
Oh yeah, well Toronto's Boston.
Oh yeah, just flip Boston and Columbus, and you're good. You're done.
Maybe, but I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand how the grouping goes here because I don't get the grouping, and it's just like the NFC East that has Dallas in it. I don't understand the grouping. I get that's how it originally started, but there's no way you can call Dallas east of anything.
But that's not.
So no, it is. That's
the phrase.
I'm hung up on the name. Why is it Metropolitan? If it's going to be Metropolitan, then these need to be
the leaders in the Legends division.
Oh, be better, way better.
At least that makes sense because or would you be like, they're not leaders? Clearly, Columbus is terrible.
The Big Ten made more sense than this does. I just I don't know. I don't understand if it's
Tampa's a
metropolitan,
huge
then make them
there.
metropolitan areas. Okay, I get New York. There's New York is in there. There's 2 of them. Philly. Okay, well now we're talking about all of the New England big metropolitan areas. Okay, well Boston's in there, but they're not in there. And we put in Columbus, Ohio, which isn't even in the East, really. It's in the Midwest, sort of, but I mean, it kind of is. I don't know. It's weird to me. And then the Atlantic one, okay, the Atlantic one makes more sense to me than the metropolitan one. I'll give you that.
I think you're just a little hung up on it.
And well, it's the same reason why St. Louis is always in the West.
Yeah.
St. Louis is not. I mean, yeah, it's west of the Mississippi.
That's it.
That's the only reason why it's west.
That's all you need. You
I don't know. More. I was so happy last year when they had all the Canadian teams in one. I was like, yeah, absolutely. The Canada division, absolutely. I like it. Anyway, whatever. The Pacific one is the only one that makes sense, except for the fact that Edmonton and Calgary are nowhere near the ocean.
All right, Max Crosby or Sidney Crosby?
Sidney Crosby, yes.
Oh my goodness, this is crazy. It doesn't matter. Whatever division they are is whatever division they are.
Okay.
Who gives a crap?
All right. Yeah, nobody.
Well, somebody does, but somebody enough to move them.
So let's talk about. Let me go back to here because of course, because when you go this way, it doesn't count. MLB still in a lockout. In case anybody noticed, the pitchers and catchers were supposed to report as early as yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was actually first. Not every team, but some of the teams. And they're clearly not doing that. The MLB has a quote-unquote soft deadline, which I don't understand. That seems like an oxymoron. A soft deadline of February 28th to reach a deal to save opening day, which is the end of March. So I don't understand what a soft deadline is. That means, well, if it happens to be March 1st or 2nd or 3rd, we'll probably get it done.
They're comfortable moving back opening day. They're
correct.
Comfortable sliding it out.
They're comfortable if the deal doesn't get done on the 28th. They could still make opening day. There's no hard deadline, meaning if it doesn't happen on this day, we won't have opening day on regular time, which doesn't make any sense. Then there is no deadline. So don't call it a soft deadline. It's just you would like it to be done by the 28th. I get it.
But they're calling it a soft deadline not for them. They're calling it for people who want answers.
Well, I understand I get it. I'm just saying there's no such thing as a soft deadline. It is totally it's an incoherent way of thinking. There's no a deadline means at this point this happens. And what you're telling me is that's not necessarily true. Then it's not a deadline.
Hung up on the phrasing.
Call it something else.
It's not for them. It's for the reporters who keep asking. So
sure.
Like, whatever. It's like this.
Sure. Then don't call it a deadline. Just use I'm just asking grown humans to use better phrasing. Is that okay? Let's talk about it the way it should be talked about. It's not a deadline. It is when we would like to have a deal done by. Okay. That's all you got to say. You don't have to call it a deadline because it isn't. So I'm just saying, this is my son. He's a girl, but this is my son. Oh, well, that's okay. No, it's not. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? That's my daughter now. You know what I mean? Don't get hung up on the phrasing. Anyway, if I want to call my daughter my son, then don't get hung up on the phrasing. It's still okay. It's just what I'm saying. It's dumb. It doesn't make any sense to me.
But in that instance, you'd be talking about how they want to be referred to. It's not how you want to refer to them. It's how they want to refer to them.
That's fine. But what I'm getting at is if I referred to you as my daughter your whole life, right? Someone would get hung up on the phrasing. Everyone would get hung up on the phrasing. That's just how people are. But you won't allow me to get hung up on this because it's not a deadline. It is absolutely not.
It's not that I'm not allowing you to. It's just that I don't. It's an unnecessary.
Yeah, just
it doesn't matter.
For two sides who can't make an agreement and can't reach a decision and who are arguing over millions and billions of dollars to come out and use bad phrasing just in general. I mean, you had all this time where you weren't doing any negotiating. You could come up with better grammar. That's all I'm asking.
Well, To that counterpoint, do you think if the players had a problem with that phrasing, they would have said something? They've been very clear about the fact that they're upset, so they would have said something.
It doesn't. It doesn't
matter. The players didn't matter.
It doesn't concern the money, so they don't care. It has nothing to do with the money, so they don't care.
People have used this phrase. It's a soft opening.
That's different.
People have used that. No, why?
That's different because it's actually different than the other opening. It's not open to everyone.
Not open.
Right.
It's different because why?
Because
the doors are kind of open.
Because
it's okay if they're not open for everyone?
Because there's no such thing as a hard opening, technically.
Exactly.
There is no such thing.
So there's no hard deadline.
There is a hard deadline. There are absolutely hard deadlines.
There's soft deadlines and deadlines.
There are
openings and
a deadline is a hard deadline, no matter what. There is no such thing as a deadline is a deadline. That's the reason the dead is in there is because after this, it's dead. It's no longer.
I hear what you're saying. You need to remove the phrase "soft anything" from everything.
From pretzels,
unless that thing is actually soft.
Soft pretzels are okay.
Soft pretzels
They're
are okay.
still okay.
Soft candy, that's fine. But anything else, it needs to go away.
All right.
Because it can't be that and this.
No, I agree. It can't be soft and a deadline. It just can't. Anyway, that's Fair fine. Enough. All right. Let's.
We got hung up on that for a sec.
Stupid. And in case you're wondering, Major League Soccer starts February 26th. Saturday, February 26th. So it's right around the corner. We're going to have Major League Soccer back again. Just thought I'd throw that out there. All right, so now we don't have a video, but we're going to talk about crazy moments in sports real quick. We got just a few minutes. And so we were talking about having a video of a crazy moment in sports, and I couldn't really find one that I really wanted to put on here, other than the boxing match where the guy's mom comes in. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Quit beating on my son. And but the video is so grainy and so bad. I was like, nah, I'm not going to show this.
It's not even fun to watch.
But what we talked about and what you came up with was let's do crazy moments that we remember or have seen.
Right.
So go ahead and start with a crazy moment from sports craziest thing you've seen or remember.
Well, one of the things the one that stuck out to me when I initially said it was in 2016, the Ravens were playing the Bengals, and they needed to burn 11 seconds off the clock to end the game. And so they took the snap, or the kicker took the snap, punter, Sam Koch, I think is his name, and he went running back towards the end zone, and all of the linemen just grabbed their defensive counterpart and just tackled him to the ground, just held everybody. So there was like 7 flags on the field. He runs all the way to the back of the end zone. He stands there for a few seconds. As soon as they start to get close, he steps out of bounds. There's a runoff for an offensive penalty. Game's over. It was confusion. The Bengals were pissed. Everyone was pissed. It was great.
That's a good one.
But it was a smart play, but it was just one of those ones where like I'd never seen it before. And I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you this. Back in 2005. Okay, so this was a couple of Sundays ago. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, watching the Nashville Sounds playing. Gosh, who were they playing? It was New Orleans. I'm trying to remember New Orleans' team name at the time. Anyway, they were playing a minor league baseball game. The Nashville Sounds are AAA team for the Milwaukee Brewers. And Rick Helling, who was a former major league pitcher, he was in rehab pitching for the Sounds, was pitching. He throws a ball. And Craig Kuzmic it shattered his bat when he swung. The ball shatters his bat. And this gigantic 3-inch, it looked longer than that to me. They said it was 3-inch. It looks longer than that. Piece of the bat goes flying at Rick Helling. And he swats at it with his glove hand, right, to knock it away. And it sticks in his forearm. Oof. It just goes right into he had to have 7 stitches in his forearm from a piece of bat that got stuck in his arm. And I watched it happen. I watched the play. So you watch the ball. It's a natural thing. You see the bat shatter. Ooh, and you ooh. But then you're following the ball. And they made the play, and they threw him out. It was a ground ball. And next thing you know, you look over at Rick Helling, and he's walking off the field holding his arm. And there's a gigantic piece of bat sticking out of his arm.
That's awesome.
It was pretty interesting. So cool. Yeah, no internal damage. They stitched him up. He started his next start. It was offhand. It wasn't his throwing hand, so it wasn't a big deal. But
yeah, he'll be fine.
But still, I was like, "Jeez."
Rub some dirt on it. Kid.
Rub some dirt on it. I mean, that was the. It was one of the weirdest things I had ever seen because I didn't actually see it hit him. I saw him swat at it, and I watched the ball. And next thing I know, he's going off the field, and there's this huge. It's got to be bigger than 3 inches. I don't think that's true. It looked like it stuck out of his arm a good 6 inches. So anyway, that was it. Fun, huh?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It was fun. That was a good memory. Saw it in person. That was a weird thing to watch. All right. Do you have a minute, or do we even have a minute?
No, I don't.
Good.
I don't have anything.
Well, then we're going to move on.
Trivia question.
Trivia question, right? So NFL records for. Okay, first we'll start with the one. So the Best Slam Sports Show trivia question brought to you by Stave and Stone Wine Estates in Hood River, and I don't have it up. I do have it up. Look at that. Huh? See? Almost like I knew what I was doing. Go see them at the winery at the Vineyard, 3827 Fletcher Drive, or the downtown tasting room at 210 Oak Street. Call them for more information at 541-946-3750. That's wine, 541-WINE-750. You can email them, info@stavenstone.com. That's Stave & Stone, Wines with Personality, sponsor of the Best Lamb Sports Show trivia question. So the trivia question was, number one, quarterback that was sacked the most times in one season.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Carr.
David Carr. How many times? Do you know how many times he was sacked?
Oh, it wasn't much more than Joe Burrow.
Okay.
I think it was... What was Joe Burrow? 71?
Well, he was 70, but that was 16 regular season games and 4 playoff games. So in 20 games, 70 times.
17 regular season games.
Yeah, 17 and 4. Yeah, 21
17 games. Regular season games.
Yeah.
I'll go with 72.
It was 76.
It's not much more. It's not much more.
In 16 games.
60 games. Oh, shit. A couple less games.
I mean, he played 5 less games and he got sacked 6 more times. Jeez. So 76 times is the record by one quarterback in a season. All right.
Pretty impressive.
So now the second question: what's the NFL record for a team, a defense, right?
Yeah.
For sacks in one season.
And you want any part of this?
Any part of that is okay.
So I know it's the Bears.
Okay, it is the Bears.
Because the Bears, it was a thing when Khalil Mack was getting a bunch of sacks that whether or not that team was going to break the sack record and things like that. But I have no clue the year. I'm going to guess it was sometime in the 80s.
It was pretty good. It's the 84 Bears that went to the 85 Super Bowl. And that's I didn't even have the answer come up. That was Wilbur Marshall, Richard Dent, and Mike Singletary. That was just a vicious defense.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and their record was 72 sacks for the season. Nice. Right? They had 72 sacks in 1984. That's the record for one team in a season. Now, what's the lowest? And I gave it away just now because the picture's up. But the record for the lowest,
I do not know,
by one team in a season is 10.
10.
The Kansas City Chiefs in 2008 sacked the quarterback 10 times all season.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, and it's not. It's funny because I was looking at these older records, and so there's 10. There's one team that had 11 and one team that had 13, and then after that it's like 18. It jumps out. It's their lowest by those teams are lowest by a long stretch. It is hard. It is hard not to get a sack. You know, just so you get some pressure and the quarterback just goes down. Yeah, it is really hard not to do that. But the Chiefs managed to do it quite a bit, which is why they started getting some draft picks. They were terrible. They were 2-14 that year, the Chiefs. So under Herm Edwards.
Classic.
So there you go. All right, that's it.
Good ones.
I know, right? So
I 2 of 3, so I feel pretty good about that.
That's not bad. I'm going to give you some credit for that. So, all right. It's all good. So it's going to start. Hey, look at that. There it is.
There's music.
So that's all we have for today. We're going to be back next week. That's Wednesday the 23rd with more NBA, NHL, Olympic wrap-up because it'll be over with by then. Of course, the trivia question and so much more. We give you the crazy moments in sports, so I will have one for next week. Again, we're streaming on YouTube every week. We're on Twitter @LambSports. We're on Facebook under the Best Lamb Sports Show. You can email us lambsports@gmail.com. And don't forget the website. I want to thank ESPN, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, U.S. Soccer, NBC, who covered the Super Bowl, which Al and Chris cover a lot of Super Bowls, by the way.
Yeah,
I was a little
might have been their last one though.
I'm a little disappointed we didn't get Tony Romo for a Super Bowl. We need one of those. But and then Team USA, and of course our sponsor is the Range in Yakima, Boss Kitty Yarns, Stave & Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. This has been a Brain Rock production, a division of Lonely Tree Media. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.